This week's episode is brought to you by Damian Albee. Thank you, Damian Albee. It's with a generous support of listeners like yourself that we get to keep making secret sauce for your brain noodles every week with our special blend of herbs and spices. If you'd like to throw in on the soup, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 a month earns you access to not only our entire library of extended shows available in convenient RSS feed format, but a 5x5 high-quality vinyl sticker of our cover art and a Discord link to our chat server where you can interact with the creators, fans, and people spying on the show in real time, day or night, from your PC, laptop, tablet, secret agent watch, or high-band infrasound quantum bilocation entanglement relay transponder. For $10, I'll even send you a holographic sticker that may or may not talk to our communication satellite array and access to our voluminous show notes. On this week's episode, we blast off into the starry abyss full of transcendental beauty, mystery, and, science. Come with us as we go looking into what's behind the galactic bulge, the Big Bang, bounce, and even whose mammaries which generously sprayed our Milky Way into existence. In the extended show, we'll discuss the trippy experiences of real-life astronauts, cannibalistic galaxies, the four fundamental forces, and the cruel fate of what life form humans first shot into space. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
I thank the heavenly cow for this milk. I feel like it's like we have these puzzle pieces, and like we know that these puzzle pieces fit really well together and they make this part of the picture, but like we're missing this big other part of the puzzle, and we can kind of just only guess what the rest of the puzzle is based on the puzzle pieces that we have put together.
Yeah, or we could grab a hammer and smash the remaining misshaped puzzle piece into that slot and just pretend we know the whole picture. These are theories that we're talking about, and whether the pieces fit together perfectly or not, we're not going to have a unified explanation of what's going on in the universe and reality, and even the spirit world, right? Because you have to take into account the things that you can't see as well as the physical aspect of the universe. We don't have that strung together perfectly yet.
Yeah, considering these scientists say that 95% of the universe isn't even baryonic, then
which means physically interacting with other particles that we can measure and look at.
We're basically guessing 95, 96-ish% of the puzzle.
It means 95% of the stuff they want to talk about, they'll never be able to experiment on or even observe.
Yep.
Wow.
Materials need to hear this, though. I used to be a materialist.
We're actually just kind of talking about the materialist stuff and not even attacking it this episode, I feel like, that much.
Well, I feel like it's linked into the spiritual. Like, they have to come together at some point. Then I think we'll have a higher understanding of what's going on.
I got into magic by reading Brian Greene's The Elegant Universe, Stephen Hawking's Cambridge Lectures. That's
short history of the universe is what I had from Hawking.
Those things primed me as a kid to believe that the universe was something grand, majestic, and inherently mysterious. Because it kind of is.
I always end up coming back to a Carl Sagan quote. The notion that science and spirituality are somehow mutually exclusive does a disservice to both.
Absolutely.
When people go off about the Big Bang, there's like, they just kind of shrug off the fact that just that requires several miracles to happen in the first place.
It literally is a virgin birth, if you think about it. Something from nothing.
Yeah.
Well, the guy who introduced the idea got a lot of flack because he was a Catholic priest.
Not to mention all the other scientists that were excommunicated, like Galileo.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just satisfy your knowledge of the stars and planets by mythologizing in abstract conceptual models of mystic, archetypal, occult, introspective theurgy. Nay, we shower your brain in a sparkling deluge of the latest discoveries in astronomy and physics, with the earnest intention of causing an implosive singularity so hard in your brain meats that you forget to even push back up your gigantic nerd glasses, because this week we're discussing space! I'm your host, Luke Madrid, the Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by co-hosts Mari Starry Campari.
Greetings, all you star seeds out there.
The Milky Mammary Massager, Malachor 5.
I'm soaking wet in star milk, orbiting around a giant cow.
And the Twisted Wick of Super Stringy Singularities, Hecka Astra.
Hello. I'm dancing, but you can't really prove it completely, so I'm just theoretically dancing.
Schrodinger's dance.
His dance. always funny to hear people say, like, because language is so important, to our reality, but they're like, oh, I want to go to space. It's like, bruh, you're already in space.
In space camp, Space Cowboy told us that the Earth is a spaceship and we should take care of our spaceship.
Yeah.
He would ask us, what does a spaceship have? And we'd list all the things. It has to have oxygen, and it has to have food, and it has to have all these things. And by the time you're done listing it, like, well, Earth has all those things. And Earth is going through space, like, super fast. And the Earth is our spaceship.
If you become an astronaut and you go on a spacewalk, like, there's just so much crap hitting your body and going through the suit. Like, in essence, we need an atmosphere everywhere we go in space, in physical space.
A spacesuit is like taking your own atmosphere.
Right, but it doesn't have the outer layer that prevents the radiation from getting inside.
Oh, so you're
Like
getting radiated out there.
Yeah.
Like neutrinos can still pass through lead, right?
Yes.
Yes. There's bullets that are extremely tiny and they don't even hurt you until later.
There's neutrinos passing through us right now.
Yep.
Yeah, but a lot less than if there was no atmosphere on this planet. Like, we need like a dome. Like, I was realizing that when I was thinking about this episode. I was like, oh, kind of scary to just go even in a spacesuit and walk on the moon. It's not going to protect you from everything. Like, you can't live there forever, even if you had all your resources. There's no atmosphere on that planet or that moon.
I'm going to wait on the study that says that neutrinos have an effect on your liver.
Oh, man.
It's kind of scary.
I got to stop smoking neutrinos.
So our galaxy, known as the Milky Way, is roughly 100,000 light years in diameter and 13.8 billion years old. And it is supposedly a barred spiral galaxy, which is kind of like a spiral, but the center has a bar that rotates. And though we can't verify the shape by direct observation, it's through scientific and mathematical conjecture and visual comparison to other galaxies that we can estimate what it looks like. So the name of it, the Milky Way, it was coined to describe our Earth-centric view of the galaxy that we inhabit. We are obviously inside the disk, so at night, ancient peoples would see this smattering of stars that would coalesce around this band that would stretch all the way around the Earth. It lights up the sky at night, and it looks like flowing milk. The term Milky Way originated from Greek, galaktikos kyklos, meaning milky circle. And then later it was translated and adopted into Latin, and it was called the Via Lactea, literally meaning way of milk or Milky Way. So originally astronomers assumed the Milky Way contained every star in the entire universe. They thought it was the entire whole universe. And it wasn't until the 1920s that astronomers discovered that there were other galaxies by looking even further into the background of space behind the Milky Way. And this is thanks to the work of Edwin Hubble. And then we began to comprehend which star was part of our own galaxy and which objects lay beyond our Milky Way. And even Milky Circle was used as a term that meant universe or cosmos before they actually discovered that there were other galaxies in the universe. Meh. And so obviously, you see pictures of galaxies. They look like little spirals or like a hurricane or water forming around a drain. So what's in the center? Like, what is drawing everything inward?
Yeah, what is that
And
big bulge in the center of a galaxy? What is that? Like, for real though?
So it's presumed that a supermassive black hole is at the center of each mature galaxy. And that's what causes the spiraling inward, is that there's a drawing and an attractive force that's drawing everything into a spiral. So a young galaxy or a star cluster, basically the stars, as they get closer and closer to one another due to gravity, will form eventually a supermassive black hole. And this is what a protogalaxy is. So as soon as the black hole is formed, this is followed quickly by the formation of the galactic bulge, which is what you see in the disk, where it kind of bows up slightly in the center. So what all that is basically super hot plasma, extremely old stars that are very massive, and a collection of smaller black holes that are orbiting the supermassive black hole at the center. So all of that stuff is coalescing and coagulating into the core. It's basically a gravity sink, and that's what causes the spiraling of the galaxy to form.
For our occultists out there, the spiral arm galaxy or the bar galaxy looks a lot like a yod.
Right. And I think it would be like Orion is the name of that bar. I think that's what they named it too.
Did they?
Yeah.
They would.
And just if you've been keeping up to date with some of the star news recently, they got like a photo of some sort, a scanning, and were able to generate an image of the center of our galaxy, this giant supermassive black hole. It would be considered a Sagittarius Alpha because it's in the center of the constellation of Sagittarius.
It's written as Sagittarius A*, the way you say it is Sagittarius A star, even though it's not technically a star.
It's interesting to consider that Sagittarius corresponds to the archer, and of course the archer corresponds to the bullseye, and the bullseye in the case of our galaxy resides there. That's the center of our galaxy. That's the bullseye. It's very interesting that that correspondence is there.
In the actual structure, the older stars tend to be towards the center, and then the younger stars and the star nurseries and nebula are usually on the outskirts, and the sun is actually located in one of the arms.
In a golden zone, though. It's not too far out, not too
Yep.
close to the center.
It's kind of far out, though.
I mean,
It
we
is.
are in the
Far
sticks,
enough.
but we're not at the very end of it, like on the outskirts.
While most sources will tell you that the Greeks named the Milky Way, we found on this show that much of Greek mythology can be reduced back to ancient Egypt. For the sake of investigation, we'll start with the Greek myth. Heracles, also known as Hercules, was born of the non-consensual commingling of the Greek god of the sky, Zeus, and an unlucky human woman named Alcmene, who was tricked into copulating with him. Hercules, endowed with the essence of his father, was a demigod, not quite mortal, not quite God, and became a hero of many myths, including the liberation of Prometheus. As a bastard child of non-consensual mingling and infidelity, Hercules found himself on Zeus's wife Hera's list of children she intended to snuff out. Despite this, Hera was tricked into nursing the baby Hercules, who suckled so hard at her titis that she jumped in surprise, pulled the infant away from her breast, and caused a glorious spray of milk to splatter into the firmament we now know today as the Milky Way. And for anyone who has seen booby milk do this before, this is a most accurate description of what it looks like. Many people believe this is where our galaxy got its name. And while the word galaxy does have Greek origins in galactos, which also means milk, the concept of the milkiness of the cosmos goes back even further. The Egyptians used to refer to it as a pool of milk from the heavenly cow, Hathoor, sky goddess and mother. Even the origin of the name Hera may have come from Hathoor, who is better known to ancient Egyptians as Hathoor. She is the oldest goddess in the Egyptian pantheon. I thought it was interesting the Greeks referred to her as the Milky Circle, the Milky Way, and Nuit is symbolically represented as a circle.
She's also kind of like arched over in a similar kind of arch that you see the Milky Way in the sky, you know?
Right.
Because she encircles
And-
the Earth like the Milky Way.
Exactly. It does make a circle. This is what is called the zone of avoidance. It's basically like we said, the galaxy is like a disk. So if you're standing inside the disk and you're looking, you're not going to be able to see the other side of whatever's blocking your vision. So it is like a veil as well that is to be lifted, that's concealing like kind of the secrets of what's on the other side of the galaxy. I think it's kind of cool.
Like you can't see the other side of the galaxy because it's obscured, you mean?
Yeah, by all this stuff, because it's a disc shape we're in. So when we look away from this plane, like, you know, side to side, and we look up or down in space, it's just darker. But if we look out into the like center of the, you know, Milky Way, because we're on the disk, it's obscured by all the stuff in between us and wherever infinity lets us look. It took them a long time to figure out how to see what's on the other side of this, but we'll get to that later.
So with Hathoor, she was depicted as a woman with a solar disc and cow horns on her head, or with a full cow's head. Alternatively, she was also shown as a woman with cow ears, as well as being drawn in full dairy cow form. She was also given multiple astrological associations, including Ursa Major, Venus, but also the entire Milky Way as a whole. And she created and maintained all life on Earth. Being a goddess of the sky, she held within her the birth and life of all on Earth and in the cosmos, and was believed to cross the boundaries between worlds. She offered help and nourishment to the deceased souls in the afterlife. And we discussed last episode how her name means House of Horus, and that she is likewise considered both a mother and consort to Horus. So being the House of Horus, there's also an underlying symbolism pointing to the house being her cosmic womb of the Milky Way, wherein our earthly skies dwell. She's a consort of many male gods, just as the Milky Way is in an embracing dance with hundreds of billions of stars, as well as other celestial bodies. So we see many depictions showing her nursing the child Horus, and really any divine child. The sycamore tree, the tree of life, was also symbolic of her. Hathoor's relationship with milk was so prevalent that even the sycamore tree's milky sap was regarded as a symbol of her life-giving love, and this milk of the sycamore was associated to the waters of the Nile, and in turn, the Nile to the waters of the heaven. Our mistress of heaven was often referred to as the Eye of Ra, or the Eye of Atum, and the sun disk atop her head is not just representative of Ra, but also as the eye from which the sun was born. As the heavenly cow, she shared attributes with Bat and Hathat, who were also goddesses that were depicted in cow form. And many drawings portrayed the heavenly cow with milk flowing from her udders, where many gods and humans alike have been shown to drink from.
Woo!
This is pretty much like the oldest depiction of the Milky Way. And in the afterlife, she was shown beneath her sacred sycamore tree, providing food and milk from her sacred cows. And there's also the 7 Hathoors, which are common depictions showing multiple aspects of her, sometimes in human forms and sometimes as full cows. So when the ancient Egyptians looked up at the night sky, they saw a pool of Hathor's milk, the milk of the heavenly cow, which we know as the Milky Way.
I think for these reasons, the role of Hathor in certain masses is the role of the deacon, because it's passing the wafers around. It's moving these associations around for the sake of the mass.
Like dishing out the spiritual food.
You see some of the depictions too in Egypt of the heavenly cow. She has like stars inside of her.
It's interesting to think of the stars as being the nourishment for our souls. You know, milk gets babies drunk. You're supposed to get drunk on looking at the stars and to feel wonder gazing at them. And it's supposed to bring some kind of relief. And I think it does even to people who don't believe in God. And I think for them, because they experience the milk of Hathor, they experience the wonder of the universe. They don't really need some abstract concept of God or whatever. And so I can appreciate that when people come to divinity through science or through stargazing, and they don't even need to call it a religion. But here we are back in ancient Egypt, like that was a metaphysical concept to them, like a truth of the universe.
Well, I mean, you kind of think about it, and it's like all life on Earth, you know, we could say like the sun provides for us all of that. But what does the sun rely on? Like our solar system is reliant on our galaxy.
Yeah.
It's a community of stars that are cooperating together.
There's so much out there. It's full of all this energy.
I think every human being innately wants to experience weightlessness again, and even oceanic bliss combined, which is something we experienced in the womb. And it's something we experienced while breastfeeding or being held by our mothers. And the way we'll experience that again, evolutionarily speaking, is to go to the stars. And I don't think we should think of leaving the Earth as some extraneous thing that only rich people like are about. It should be our collective destiny to return back to our source, our mother, our original mother, the stars. And contrary to what you might expect, space is not empty. In fact, despite being black, quote unquote, space is full of light. This fact has recently come to startle astronomers who were recently just enjoying images coming back from New Horizon, a deep space probe whizzing far beyond Pluto, and the high-tech successor to the old Voyager missions. In the same way atmosphere scatters light from the sun to turn it blue, pink, and orange, dust in the solar system does something similar. New Horizons was able to get beyond this dust in the solar system and take photographs of really dark, boring sections of space, the little holes in the sky where there's little or no stars. Researcher Todd Lauer on the project explains, what you want is a place that doesn't have many bright stars in the images or bright stars even outside the field that can scatter light back into the camera. Now, to the surprise of everyone, there was actually a lot of light. In fact, the researchers were able to demonstrate this strange ambient space glow was accounting for about half of the light in total. According to Michael Zemkov, an astrophysicist at Rochester Institute of Technology and researcher on the project, he said, they're saying there's as much light outside of galaxies as there is inside of galaxies, which is a pretty tough pill to swallow, frankly. Astronomers are not entirely sure why space is glowing or how to explain why it is. This might have shocked William Olbers, who famously put forth Olbers' paradox, which stated, if space is infinite, the sky should be full of stars without any spots between. And since that's not the case, it has to end somewhere. And while scientists haven't found the end of the universe yet, we have looked back far enough to see where light itself began.
And by looking back, that has to do with the distance that you're actually observing, because the farther away you observe through a telescope, the longer the time lag. So you're actually, in effect, looking back in time, the farther you magnify space.
In 1835, Frederick Bessel invented the parallax method of measuring stellar distances and was able to conclude that 61 Cygnus was 10 light years away. Parallax is what your eyes do, how you have two different inputs and you can see depth that way. So you can achieve the same effect by looking at something on two different sides of the Earth or at two different times of the year on either side of the sun to achieve parallax and get a depth on
a depth reading.
Yeah, you can get you can get depth to a certain number of light years into space and then it drops off like a camera.
It's like how we have depth perception, but if we close one eye, it's a bit harder to tell how far something is away from you.
It flattens out because you're not getting the 3D picture. You got to have to compare one eye to the other to see the distance or the movement that happens.
So as we said, 61 Cygnus, 10 light years away. In short, this means it would take light 10 years from 61 Cygnus to reach us. And effectively, we're seeing it as it was 10 years ago, just as Mari was saying. However, it would be nearly 100 years until Edwin Hubble would settle the question of what those weird, formerly indiscernible smudges were at the edge of the Milky Way. Using his new powerful telescope, Hubble was able to discern Andromeda lay outside of our galaxy by about 2.5 million light years. Humanity now knew for sure some of those little points of light in the dark abyss were actually entire other galaxies swirling with stars.
You can actually see Andromeda with your naked eye too, and it is our closest galactic neighbor.
I didn't do this on purpose, but you remember how we talked about how Ursa Major was associated with Hathoor?
Oh.
Well, this next object is located inside of Ursa Major.
It's associated with Hathoor because it kind of looked like a cow's leg.
Today, the farthest object ever photographed is GNz-11, whose light takes 13.4 billion years to reach us and gives us a snapshot of the universe when it was young. While this is great for studying what the universe looked like, it doesn't really give us an accurate measurement of the universe's size. This is because every galaxy we've ever pointed our telescopes at appears to be moving away from us at tremendous speed. How do we know? Light does the same thing that sound of a train or motorcycle engine does, depending on if it's coming toward you or going away from you. Like that noise.
It compresses as it comes towards you, and then it decompresses as it leaves.
You know when you hear someone go by in a car that's like blaring music and it sounds like the music gets slower as the car drives away from you?
Mm-hmm.
Like that, right?
The Doppler effect.
Light does the same thing. The difference with light is that instead of changing audible pitch, it changes visual pitch by changing to a more red color or a more blue color. Thus, objects coming toward us see their waves pushed together into a higher frequency towards blue. Objects going away see their waves being stretched further away towards red. This is called the red and the blue shift. As far as we can tell, the rest of the universe is red shifting away from us at approximately 45 miles per second per megaparsec, with the furthest objects moving away the fastest. This means that even though it took GNz-11's light 13.4 billion years to reach us, it's been busy expanding away from us that whole time, making its total distance a grand total of 32 billion light years. This is just the oldest observable object. Delicate instruments are actually able to detect light from its creation 13.77 billion years ago, when it emitted a giant flash that we can see the remnants of today as the cosmic microwave background radiation. This is when light was created. If light was created at 13.77 billion years ago, and the universe is 13.8 billion years, this is really early after the creation of the universe. It's like 300,000 years or something.
It's one of the first things.
Yeah, so when light was created, this establishes the edge of our observable universe. Because if we try to look further away than the point from which these photons originated, 13.77 years ago, we'd be looking so far back in time, there'd be nothing to look at.
It's opaque because light hasn't been able to escape so far. It's been being absorbed by all the particles. There's no light escaping towards our horizon.
There was no light yet. There's nothing to look at yet. If you look further away than that.
You get too close to the udder, and all you see is the hole and not the milk.
So, based on the age of the first photons and the speed at which the universe is expanding, these photons came from a place that is now 45.5 billion light years away. Meaning, if we're somewhere in the center, that's just assuming, then the observable universe is 93 million light years big. Meaning, no matter where you go, you can only see 93 million light years away before running into the beginning of the universe in your telescope. More accurately, the beginning of light. Technically, the observable universe should be different for everybody, but still 93 million light years wide. So so if you went to GNz-11, you could see different places in the universe. It'd be a different perspective, but you'd still be limited by that 93 million light years wide visual perspective until you moved again.
93.
93.
Yeah,
93.
it's like that meme with that one dude pointing and they're both like, oh, and it's just Elamites.
It's just a bunch of Thelemites yelling 93 at each other.
That's what they do.
But it's important to note, it doesn't matter where your center point is, because, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter where you are. You are the center of the universe, wherever your perspective is. It just works that way. It's a hypersphere, in my opinion. But yeah, once the universe cooled, all at a speed that exceeds our current limit of the speed of light. So
crazy.
Basically, once it cooled down enough for the light to reach us, that's the barrier that we're seeing in the microwave radiation background.
I think they even mathematically they determined how to calculate time at this point, and it's like negative exponentials. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, and I think it's also strange too, because if the universe hypothetically started from a singular point, like as in Big Bang Theory, it actually ultimately becomes the container or the border of the entire universe.
Yeah.
So that's an illustration of a point becoming a sphere. Just like we talked about in the Thelema episode.
That is really interesting, because no matter where you are in the universe, you're encircled by the beginning.
And it's a holistic sphere, but you can never escape the sphere. And it always irradiates out from a point.
This is why, like in the last episode, I said you didn't have to be a Thelemite in order to get something out of the Book of the Law, because essentially there's a psychological theory out there that religion will adapt itself to our view of the universe. And so if we find out about things in a higher order of magnitude, then likewise this will be reflected in our religions. Okay?
Yeah. And it's also interesting that Earth itself is 93 million miles from our sun.
Crazy.
93.
As above, so below.
And I'm 93 seconds from crying.
No crying in the whole rabbit.
There's no crying in the whole rabbit. So where did all this stuff in the universe come from?
So most scientists, they still adhere to the theory of the Big Bang for an explanation of how our universe was created. The Big Bang theory allows us to trace our ever-expanding universe back to its point of origin, like Luke was saying. But what happens when we find anomalies that appear to be older than the universe, like the Methuselah star? According to newer data, the universe is possibly hundreds of millions of years younger than the age that is suggested by the heat that still radiates out from the point of origin. Howard Bond and other astronomers using the Hubble telescope determined that the Methuselah star is 14.5 billion years old, which would make it almost 1 billion years older than the universe itself, given the age estimated by the Big Bang. And that doesn't really make sense. So Methuselah shares the name with the biblical character that was regarded as being the longest lived human and grandfather of Noah. Thought that was an interesting fact. The English astronomer Fred Doyle, that coined the term the Big Bang, ended up rejecting the one-way expansion theory in favor of an infinite and continuous creation model, which would define the universe's age as being infinitesimal.
So uncreated. It's always been there.
Cyclical.
On some order of magnitude, I suspect we may come to that conclusion again. Just a hunch. The guy you just mentioned, Fred Hoyle's model, suggested that matter was somehow being created as the universe expanded. He used the term Big Bang in summary of an opposing theory during a BBC radio talk in 1949. Fred actually spent a considerable amount and effort of his career trying to convince everyone afterwards that he didn't say Big Bang in a pejorative way. People still think he did, though. Like, they just think everything happened in a Big Bang.
So most astronomers and physicists today probably consider the infinite and continuous creation model absolutely unthinkable. But it would be a possible explanation for Methuselah and other strange anomalies. Egyptian and Canadian scientists Ahmed Farag Ali and Saurya Das, they offered a possible and mathematically sound explanation for an infinite age of the universe, stating that the cosmic effects that we attribute to the Big Bang might actually represent a permanent universe's steady state that had no beginning. It is possible that the Big Bang represents just one event in the infinite history of an infinite universe, and we can see an increasing amount of astrophysicists that think it's possible our universe came from other universes, possibly going back indefinitely. In the early stages, the Big Bang theory, based on Einstein's theory of relativity, states that the laws of physics would be applied to both the entire resultant structure of the universe as well as individual atoms in a phenomenon that abides by what's called conformal symmetry. But But what we can behold of the universe now kind of gives us a different story. Large matter observes standard laws of physics according to general relativity, as Einstein imagined, but subatomic particles, which means particles smaller than an atom, are instead governed by the laws of quantum mechanics. And these two governing principles seem to be at odds with each other when the Big Bang is brought into question.
Yeah, you have to invoke all the everything all at once when you start talking about the Big Bang. And because we haven't unified all the math, we haven't figured everything out about gravity, we haven't found its force-carrying particle, etc., there's no unified math or structure to describe what theoretically happened during the Big Bang or pre-Big Bang or anything really like concisely about it.
This is why we were saying earlier that like just the Big Bang theory kind of needs to call upon a couple of miracles just to have happened in the first place. So then a new theory was presented called the Big Bounce theory, and it's one that views the Big Bang as just part of a cyclical creation of the universe, and sometimes it offers the model of the current universe as being a double funnel. With this model, the previous universe shrinks into the tiny middle, passing through a bounce stage and then expanding back out into a new universe. In this theory, whatever was before the Big Bang will happen again, and then a new Big Bang event will occur all over again.
Chaos magician Peter Carroll speculates in some of his later work about the Big Bang, how it might be wrong in some alternative models. Now, science has pretty much just observed that the universe is expanding, but, you know, I can't help but think the universe is probably in the shape of a big toroidal donut. And somehow, somewhere, it probably goes out towards like the bottom and it expands out and then it gets sucked back in. And I think it's possible that all this expansion we're seeing is going to eventually reverse on itself. And I think it's possible that the Big Bounce theory could be the thing.
That's the double funnel.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're absolutely right, Luke. If you look at like chakra, things that have the human aura around it and how it cycles out from the crown in like all directions and then comes back in through the feet or whatever order you want to cycle your energy. I think that's exactly how the universe is shaped. Is a big aura donut.
And it can move in reverse, which would be what the Big Crunch is. And my personal theory is that the Big Bang itself is a sort of white hole. It's a black hole from the other side that we don't get to see. Because all we get to see is the black hole flushing all the energy out. But where is it all going to coalesce at the end of the universe when it crunches back in on each other? It's going to come back outward in a Big Bang flash. And that's kind of like what I view that as the opposite of a black hole.
I like to kind of think of this like, you know, a fisheye lens, how it bulges out. And if you were to have a mirror that has that kind of convex shape to it, if you have something passing by the mirror, it looks like it's speeding and then it slows down in the middle. And then as it passes, it speeds back up. So I kind of like to think of if we use this model of the universe that's like a donut, we're at like a point in it that's like, it appears like it's going much faster and it's accelerating. Just like if you were to look in one of those like convex mirrors.
It's expanding outward.
It's hyperbolic.
Yeah, so we would be at a point in this, I guess, this double funnel cycle where it appears to be speeding up.
Yeah.
I think that's why light magic works. When you do meditation and you're using light, this is exactly why, because it's star stuff, man.
Didn't we learn in the Hinduism episode that the universe is like the breath of Vishnu going in and out? These
you breathe out,
cycles?
you breathe in.
Sounds kind of like that. I mean,
This is a great topic for meditation, period.
I think it's also a really good way to explain the individual experience of time. That just thinking about it like it's a kind of convex mirror, whereas like depending on what part of the mirror you're looking at will make it seem like it's going faster or slower.
It's a house of fun. You're fat on the bottom and skinny on the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you walk over here and you look different. Just watch out for what crawls out of the mirror when the lights go out.
so yeah, when we look way out at the edge of the universe, it's the part of the fun mirror that's like, whoa.
So like with that kind of double funnel where it basically would have to be, it would go through that kind of compression. You'd think of that as like the Big Crunch, and then where it comes out again at the top of the donut, maybe that would be the expansion, the Big Bang.
Yeah, that's some more you're saying.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So then with that kind of cyclical bounce, that would be the Big Bounce theory. Hawking points, so named after Stephen Hawking, are points of radiation leaked by evaporating black holes. And Nobel Prize winner for physics and the man that proved that black holes exist, Sir Roger Penrose, previously worked alongside Hawking. And he says following.
The existence of such anomalous regions resulting from point-like sources at the conformally stretched out Big Bang, is a predicted consequence of conformal cyclic cosmology. These sources being the Hawking points of the theory, resulting from the Hawking radiation from supermassive black holes in a cosmic aeon prior to our own.
So in saying a cosmic aeon prior to our own, he implies a universe prior to the one that we acknowledge as starting with the Big Bang, posing a theory where the universe itself dies and is reborn infinitely through conformal cyclic cosmology created each time from its own Big Bang. In such a scenario, he points out that not everything is destroyed in the death cycle and that perhaps Hawking points are possible survivors of a previous cosmic aeon. Bum, bum, bum.
Da-da-da-da-da. So I'm a huge fan of Sir Roger Penrose. He's a theoretical mathematician, but his work has contributed to many facets of science, not just math. We discussed him on a previous show when I was talking about time and consciousness or whatever. He did some other work alongside Dr. Carl Prevrum to construct a theory about how consciousness actually works on a nanoscale inside our brains. And the more we seamlessly unify different fields of study, the better the understanding of the universe and how it works as a whole, in my opinion. Penrose is known for bridging the gap between multiple professions. And I think that's really important in the new understanding of how everything works together.
Go ahead, Heka.
Dr. Stephen Gielan from the Imperial College London and Dr. Neil Turok, director of the Perimeter Institute for Theoretical Physics in Canada, they proposed in a new paper that elaborated on the old concept of the Big Bounce theory that we were just talking about. In this study, the two doctors sought to offer further explanations as to how the universe itself is cyclical and never truly had a beginning. They present that the possibility that when the universe reaches the moment known as the Big Crunch, which is the end of the contraction back inwards, that the effects of quantum mechanics would kick in, ultimately preventing it from collapsing in on itself absolutely and allowing it to expand back outwards again. They state quantum mechanics saves us when things break down. It saves electrons from falling in and destroying atoms. So maybe it could also save the early universe from such violent beginnings and endings as the Big Bang and Big Crunch. Building upon this understanding of quantum mechanics, they said that this could very well describe the earliest moments of the Big Bang with minimal assumptions about the matter present in the universe. In such a scenario, the Big Bang would be closer to a bounce, whereby the contraction is then reversed to expansion. This presented theory has been questioned, obviously, thoroughly by other astronomers that have made observations suggesting that the universe expands at different rates depending on locations and conditions. Currently, our model of the universe suggests the rate of expansion is accelerating indefinitely due to what is called dark energy. And we don't understand dark energy well enough at all to posit anything other than theories at this time, but we do know it's in the current state of expansion due to redshift, like Luke was saying earlier. And researchers studied temperature data of 842 galaxy clusters for information regarding their individual X-ray luminosity, and they compared one set of data that did not require knowledge of outside factors, like the universe's expansion rate, with another set of data that did require that. And with these side by side, they concluded that the universe's rate of expansion is not uniform in every location.
Oh, it's messy. Messy universe.
It's messy. Some areas, they seem to expand slower and some expand faster, and it's possible that gravity between galaxy clusters could give the illusion of differing expansion rates, but it's still just so largely unknown, and it just continues to be looked into.
So for all the people out there that believe that space is water and it's all conspiracy and like the sky is actually a glass dome, this is why I say like the metaphor it's so close to what is actually the truth, it might as well be true. Like it's like a lot of liquid out there. They're saying
We're a bubble.
Yeah.
It's a big colloidal like substance.
Ether.
I mean, dark energy is often described as being kind of fluid.
Thales said everything was water. Modern day astronomers, on the other hand, think everything is dark energy. Quote, a theoretical repulsive force that counteracts gravity and causes the universe to expand at an accelerating rate.
So dark energy, this force is usually seen working at extremely high scales, as in the macro, even larger than us. It forms superstructures like galaxy sheets or filaments throughout the universe. And it seems to be concentrated within the voids or these gigantic swaths of quote unquote empty space that push and shove against the filaments, clusters, and walls of galaxies that are bound in their own gravitational chunks of matter.
This stuff is huge, what we're talking about.
And it almost, and like you were saying, it is like water in that, like, when water boils and it forms bubbles on the surface, the water tension shoves the water molecules into the pockets that are between the bubbles. So it takes on this form. It's almost like it's boiling. And like Heka was talking about before, the expansion of the universe seems to be non-uniform, as in that you'd expect the universe to expand at the outward side of the sphere, right? Like the expansion is happening at the very edge of the universe. That's not what's happening. It's bubbling and expanding all in these different places in these voids. And that's where dark energy seems to reside. So interestingly enough, at the scale of size, this begins to look like something very small when you look at visual models of it interacting with real matter and the dark energy pushing against the real matter. And so below I've put 4 pictures. 2 of them are models of hyperstructure or hyper macro structures of the universe, these galactic filaments where energy and matter move along these little pathways. And then you have these void spaces that almost look like bubbles in a sponge or a bubbling pot of water. But I've also placed 2 pictures, and there's many other examples you can find in nature, but these other pictures is a model of, or a picture of mycelium from the Amazon rainforest, deep in the ground, these fungus structures that they interconnect and talk to each other in a giant network underneath the jungle. It looks the same as the macro universe, as the cosmos. And then even the neurons in our brain, our neural network, when you stain them on a glass slide and you look at it with a microscope, it looks like the macro universe. That's really what illustrates to me that the universe is as above, so below. You're going to see these structures whether you look through a microscope or a telescope. And I really think that reality is holographic in this respect because you continue to see these patterns no matter where you look and at what size.
I think this is actually really useful with magic because I think you can connect to the macro through the reflection of it on a micro within ourselves by realizing that that is also reflected in us, in our neural pathways. However, like depending on, you know, if you want to relate to the planets, you also can connect to that by recognizing it within yourself.
The energies within yourself, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's totally applicable to magic.
But it's just such a beautiful way to understand the universe is that it is holographic. It's like a kaleidoscope. It doesn't matter what perspective you have. Like we were talking about earlier, being an ant, maybe you would see more of the micro universe, but it would still hold the same pattern as the universe that we see from our point of view.
Yeah, I think acknowledging those fractals, it helps to gain a kind of union with it, communication with it.
This reminds me of what Jesus says in the Gospels of Thomas. Jesus said, "If your leaders say to you, 'Look, the Father's kingdom is in the sky,' then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, 'It's in the sea,' then the fish will precede you. Rather, the Father's kingdom is within you, and it is outside of you. When you know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father. But if you do not know yourselves, then you live in poverty, and you are the poverty."
Yeah, it said, know thyself, and you will know God, right?
I also think the kingdom in the sky, and then the kingdom in the sea is a metaphor for the large and the small. Like if God is all the big things, or if God is all the small things, you'll never find it. Like God is right here inside of you and outside of you.
Yeah, like a reference to the as above, so below.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you know yourself truly, you'll know yourself as the living giant organism.
Or we could be in the brain of a living giant organism and we don't know it.
Yeah, that reminds me a lot of, there's a book that I totally suggest if people are interested on this whole connection between the macro and the micro, and it's a book called From the Mundane to the Magnificent, and it's a woman that goes on a journey with her holy guardian angel into cells, and the cells are talking about like basically the body as a god. It's a very interesting, very insightful book if you're interested in furthering this kind of understanding. She does a really good way of laying it out.
I would love to read that.
Yeah, you suggested it a couple episodes back, and I have it in my Amazon cart.
Oh, it's so good.
I think it's like $15.
Send it to me.
Okay.
But what about dark matter, y'all? We got to get through that. Dark matter is only about 25% of the universe?
Don't get me started.
I think dark matter is like 26 or 28 or something, and then there's like 60 something dark energy.
And 4% matter.
Yeah, it's like 4 or 5% actual like baryonic
We
matter.
are nothing.
Yeah, the standard model is a bit fishy because of that, which is why you have to talk about dark energy and dark matter because they account for like the whole universe that we
gotta
can't see,
figure out
touch,
what
or
the
feel.
fuck it is.
So galaxies in our universe seem to be achieving an impossible feat. They're rotating with such speed that the gravity generated by their observable matter could not possibly hold them together. They should have torn themselves apart years ago. The same is true of galaxies in clusters, which leads scientists to believe that something we cannot see is at work. They think that something we have yet to detect directly is giving these galaxies extra mass, generating the extra gravity they need to stay intact. This strange and unknown matter was called dark matter since it's not visible.
And it actually doesn't seem to interact with real matter as we know it. It's just kind of there. And it creates a foundation that attracts real matter to coalesce.
Like the invisible dragon in my garage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I hope you get some help with that. But yeah, like when I was researching the formation of galaxies, like I was talking about earlier, there's some evidence that these cold dark matter halos seem to form in space before a galaxy actually coalesces together.
No way.
And yeah, so it's as if there's some guiding or seeding function for the actual physical matter, and it directs it where to form and acts as a ghostly clue to keep things from becoming too unstable or to break apart.
So you're
And
saying the egg came before the chicken?
in a way, yes. There's some kind of program that it's an informational field, right?
It's Satan's cursor.
It's Yesod.
It could be.
It's Lucifer's interface cursor. He's like using the lasso tool, photoshopping in some shit.
And we mentioned neutrinos in the beginning of the episode, but they pass through matter like it's nothing because they do not interact with physical matter. So there are some things in our universe that don't have a physical interaction, but they're still there. It's almost like a radio wave or an informational, like a Wi-Fi signal that's like, hey, you should build your shit over here because it's the best place to build it and you should build it in this structure. And this to me reminds me of it's one of my favorite scientists, Dr. Rupert Sheldrake. He put out a theory called morphic resonance, and he describes these things called morphic fields. They're sort of like an immaterial mechanism that contains information and organizational patterns, and they exist before physical matter even coalesce or forms into their final form. And it guides the structure and growth patterns or even behavior of certain material atoms, even like molecules, up to organisms.
Yeah, DNA
Like
structure.
how fish spiral in the ocean, fish in a school, or even birds flying in a giant flock. These morphic fields actually are there before. They're an informational field, and it's purely spiritual. It has nothing to, it's not material at all, but it's there before the material forms there.
In my understanding, because I've read some of his theory, that morphic resonance makes a lot of sense to me, especially when you apply it to Enochian stuff, because like you said, it's information. These are like the things that were before us, and they're shaped in this way, and the language is this way, and you can extrapolate, you can unfold it in different dimensions, and it reveals all these cool patterns.
Yes, but it's a basal pattern that generates multiplicities of patterns that you could see.
So I think that to sum it up for people who might be a little bit lost on the science front of it, dark matter is the unseen particles. They're the unseen particles binding our universe and bodies even together. Yes. And dark energy is different. It's not the same thing as dark matter. It's the force responsible for the accelerating expansion of the universe. And because both of them are unseen, that's why they're called dark. But yeah, they're not the same. I just thought I'd clarify that for anyone who might be a little bit lost. I think it's also important to note that even though dark matter can't be seen or directly observed, we know it exists because its effects can be calculated. We just don't really know what it is.
And for the matter, dark energy is its counterpart, and it needs the counterpart to bring in the form and the shape and the pattern of living matter. It's essential to have both.
This is why I think they're both fudge factors for our lack of understanding about gravity or maybe the shape of the universe. I could be wrong. I'm just a nobody. I don't know anything, but that's my guess. If I had
We're
to
only
guess.
using the terminology that we have at hand right now. And of course there might be something more to it, and we could find new names and new understandings of it. But this is the best we can do with our theoretical knowledge at this point.
I'm not angry at it, but I think it might be phlogiston. I think someday we might
I agree.
look back at dark energy and dark matter and say, oh, we just couldn't understand these things and we couldn't fit it into the model, and now we know why they do. I think someday we'll dispense with it, but I could be wrong.
It's literally Kirby lore at this point.
Okay, so I think it's also, there seems to be a little bit of confusion for people sometimes about dark matter, because some people think it's the same thing as antimatter, and it's not.
It's
the
not.
same thing.
It's literally just something there to make sense of why galaxies don't fling apart.
Yeah.
Because there's something about gravity that we don't quite understand. Probably. That's what I think.
That's kind of like the strong force, but we'll get into that into the next part of the show. So
Yeah.
pay $5 for that shit.
At www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit,
where your monthly donation of just $5 gets you access to all our extended episodes,
a 5x5 vinyl sticker of our Big Bazoomed cover art,
and access to our Discord server where you can talk about physics, the occult, or radishes.
And gather all our undying love.
Or carrots?
or carrots. What did you say, Mari?
I said, fuck radishes, eat carrots.
And shoot lasers.